Hello, it's Rehan again. And after talking with a lot of the officers and captains after today's extemp, there seems to be a general consensus that there's a lot of confusion on how to actually select your topic once you've drawn 3 topics in extemp. So I'm creating this video in order to try to clarify how to select a topic quickly, or kind of like how I do it. And so this video I'm going to split up. I have 2 main rules when it comes to topic selection in extemp. And so if you want to write these down, the first one I call knowledge, and the second one I call impact and opportunity. And so the first one is kind of self-explanatory. Once you've drawn 3 topics, you want to pick the one that you have the most knowledge on. I mean, this makes common sense, because if you pick a topic that you have the most knowledge on, you'll start off with a higher baseline for your analysis and a higher baseline for researching, meaning that you won't have to spend as much time actually looking up what your topic is about. This is helpful because it means that there'll be more time to add nuances to your speech, whether it's working on your delivery, adding jokes, or even adding those extra statistics and analysis that makes your speech different than everyone else's. So you want to pick the speech or the topic that you have the most background knowledge on. However, the problem that it seems that most of you guys are encountering isn't the knowledge part. It's rather once you have 3 topics that you have similar levels of knowledge on, which either A, you know a lot about all the topics you've drawn, or B, which is probably more likely at this level, is that you have little to no knowledge on any of the topics. And so that's kind of where my second rule comes into play, which I call impact and opportunity, which really has 2 parts. So the first part is impact. So when I say impact, I mean the impact of the topic that you're drawing. So this kind of is like the scope of the topic that you're drawing. For instance, 2 extreme examples of this would be if you have a topic talking specifically about the housing market in, let's say, Boston versus the economy of the United States as a whole. Obviously, these are 2 very big extremes, but it's clear which one has more scope. You would rather talk about the economy of the United States as a whole because it accounts and impacts more people. The same way, when you're picking between topics such as climate change or, let's say, the Qatar's education system, it's clear that climate change has a bigger impact to people. And that's the topic you want to pick, because the more people it impacts, the easier that'll be to make your topic and speech interesting to your audience. Making your speech interesting is quite difficult. So you want to pick a topic that makes it as easy as possible to do it for you. Once again, the only time you would go with a topic that perhaps has lesser impact is when you have more knowledge on it, which refer back to my first rule, because that pretty much overrides everything. But what happens if you're faced with 2 topics that have the same impact? That's when you weigh into the second part of the rule, which I call, or I like to refer to, as opportunity. And when I say opportunity, I mean the amount of opportunity or potential the specific topic has. So to be more clear on this, let's look at a topic such as who is responsible for the death of Jeffrey Epstein. This topic is extremely broad. It doesn't have a lot of opportunity, hence it's hard to fill 7 minutes of a speech on Jeffrey Epstein's death's responsibility with nuanced analysis. After all, most of it will be pretty specific and pretty repetitive. That's why you want to look to a speech that has a lot of opportunity for nuance, a lot of opportunity for difference, and a lot of opportunity for uniqueness. Specifically, a speech such as, how can the Texas curriculum for high schools be improved? See how the scope isn't necessarily different? After all, Jeffrey Epstein is a national figure, while Texas curriculum is only in Texas. But the opportunity provided by a curriculum, the topic on Texas curriculum, is far greater, because there's much greater ability to add nuance to the speech. Hence, you want to pick topics that either 1, have large magnitude, or 2, have greater opportunity to add uniqueness to a speech, meaning that there's greater opportunity and more broadness within the topic area itself. The more specific a topic gets, normally the lesser amount of opportunity that there is, and a lot of topics that are really flat will just be bad topics flat out, but you're going to encounter bad topics in your extemp career as well. Most of the topics that have less opportunity are topics such as who is responsible for this, or who will win this. Like topics that have like one kind of curated answer versus topics that are like why or how are usually more broad and have more opportunity for success. But once again, the only time you would look, to the impact and the opportunity factor is after you've already filtered for knowledge. So in conclusion, when you're faced with 3 topics, first evaluate them for knowledge. Which one do you have the most background knowledge upon? With all of that controlled, if all the topics you know little to nothing about, you want to filter for impact and opportunity that the speech will give you. And once again, as time goes on and as you apply these 2 rules or principles that I like to abide by, as time goes on, you'll get better and faster at seeing which topics have the most opportunity, which topics have the most impact. But hopefully, if you had no idea as to how to pick a topic, this will give you some type of starting ground and some kind of baseline to do so. Thanks.